Just then, there came a sound at the door of Sara's room. Sara was not a girl easily given to fear or startlement, but she had a healthy share of curiosity and went at once to see what it was. Outside sat a little girl, right on her bottom in the middle of the hall, her baby plump legs splayed and the lace of her petticoats askew, as if she had just toppled over, which, in fact, she had. "Hello there. Who might you be?" "Lottie." Her words were hard to make out through the fingers she had shoved into her mouth. "Lottie?" The fingers were withdrawn and wiped dry among the frills of her skirt. "Lottie lay." Sara smiled. Here, then, was a chance to meet just one person at a time, instead of a crowd of strangers. "Well then, I am Sara Crewe, and now we are properly introduced." She held out a hand and helped the little girl to her feet. "Was there something you wanted?"
May I look at your doll?"
"Of course you may. Come and visit in my room, and we can have tea together. My papa left me a beautiful tea set with lilies painted on it. Emily has her own service as well, sized for her hand because she is too small to hold one of my cups."
"I want to see."
"Come inside then, and I will introduce you to Emily." And that was Sara's first week of classes at Miss Minchin's Select Seminary for Young Girls. We did! Yay! Okay. Again, this is going to be a lot of skipping, so apologies. But wait, no! Ah! Fuck! I meant to save and I did not save. I am fool. I am fool. Let's try this again. Fuck. I'm so sorry. No! No! Now I have failed. Writing diary. This is, this is writing diary. Who cares? Go! Alright, there we go. Yay! Okay. Save. Not load. Save. There we go. Now I can do my Lottie voice, and my Lavinia voice, and my Becky voice. Oh boy. Sara was seated comfortably in the classroom, gazing out the window and thinking. It was not that the seat itself was so comfortable. The long form benches of the schoolroom were chosen for function and ease of use, not for gently cushioning the tender bottoms of schoolgirls. Sara's own cozy little parlor contained far more comfortable places to sit than the classroom or even the dining room at Miss Minchin's. However, sometimes a change of scenery was more conducive to clear thinking. There was something interesting about being in a classroom when all the other students had gone. Is this still a classroom if there is no class inside it? And yet, it was not long before someone else did enter the room. Someone who stood at the corner of Sara's vision, unwilling to speak and interrupt, but nearly bouncing on her toes from excitement. Lottie? After looking outside and letting her mind wander for so long, Sara's eyes seemed to view everything in the wrong colors, and Lottie's round face was overlaid with pink and greens. She blinked a few times to clear her vision. Lottie clapped her hands together, taking this as permission to speak.
"May we go and see the doll, Emily, now, and have tea?"
"All right." Sara led the way up the stairs, motioning Lottie behind her to stay quiet. "We must be careful not to disturb her."
"Disturb who?"
"If we're very lucky, you might see." The door to Sara's room stood in front of them. Sara placed a finger over her own lips, and then to Lottie's. Only after Lottie nodded did she reach for the door. Then Sara suddenly turned the handle and threw it wide open. Its opening revealed the room quite neat and quiet, a fire gently burning in the grate, and a wonderful doll sitting in a chair by it, apparently reading a book. Oh, she got back to her seat before we could see her. Of course, they always do. They are as quick as lightning. Lottie looked from Sara to the doll and back again.
Can she walk?
Yes, at least I believe she can. I believe dolls can do things they will not let us know about. Perhaps, really, Emily can read and talk and walk, but she will only do it when people are out of the room. That is their secret. You see, if people knew that dolls could do things, they would make them work. So, perhaps they have promised each other to keep it a secret. If you stay in the room, Emily will just sit there and stare, but if you go out, she will begin to read, perhaps, or go and look out of the window. Then, if she heard either of us coming, she would just run back and jump into her chair and pretend she had been there all the time. Lottie's eyes were magnified enormously as she took in this bewitching new concept. It was a delightful thought. However, Lottie was one of the youngest students at Miss Minchin's seminary, and as such, had experience in being told things by older girls that might not be true.
Sara, does she really walk? Do you truly believe it?
I pretend that I believe she can, and that makes it seem as if it were true.
So it's not true.
When you suppose things, when you pretend them with great vigor, that makes them almost real. If you imagine for yourself that there are fairies in the London sky, if you stare up into the sky thinking about fairies and looking very hard for them, you might almost catch a glimpse of one. And you're not sure what you saw. Was it real, or wasn't it? Were you pretending? Was it a dream or a vision? Did you actually see anything at all? You know that you were pretending, so it is not so terrible if you didn't see anything. But maybe, just maybe, you were right all along. Sometimes stories do come true. Do you understand?
I think so.
Would you like to hold Emily?
Oh, may I? May I really? She is beautiful.
And Emily was put into her arms. Lottie smiled down at the doll, cradling her gently and fingering her fair curls.
They must move very fast to get out of sight when we come in, mustn't they? I wonder if we could learn to move like lightning.
Oh, we couldn't do it. You see, it's a kind of magic.
Maybe people can have magic too.
That is nice to pretend. But whether we can have magic or not, we can certainly have tea. Oh, I love Sara. Sara's so good. Even from a distance, there was no mistaking Lottie's shrill little voice.
I want to hold the kitty.
Don't be ridiculous. Sara came into the room to find Lavinia perched primly in a window seat, looking down at the smaller child whose lip was beginning to wobble. Tybalt is in my lap, and he is perfectly content there. Listen, you can hear him purr. That is because I am stroking him, and he likes me.
I want to hold the kitty.
Keep your sticky little fingers away from his fur. Lottie's brow furrowed in fierce determination. Ignoring Lavinia's commands, she reached out to pick up the cat. Lavinia slapped Lottie's hand away. The sudden movement jostled Tybalt out of his comfortable doze. With a parting squeeze of his claws, he leapt from Lavinia's legs and hurried out of the room. Now look what you've done, you little brat! He scratched me, and if he's damaged my dress...
It scratched you because you're mean. You wouldn't even let me touch it. It isn't fair. It isn't.
A cat is not a rag doll. You cannot snatch and tug at it as you please, or it will bite your hand. Is that too difficult for a child of 8 to understand? She cannot help being younger any more than we can help being older. If she is 8, she is 8, but she will be 9 the next year, and 10 the year after that, and in 12 years she will be 20, and that is quite grand. Dear me, how we can calculate.
I don't want to be 20.
You will be when you are, and you won't be while you aren't, so there's no reason to want or not to want.
No, no, no.
Be quiet, or I shall slap your face. You mustn't. Lottie looked into Lavinia's blazing eyes, then ran from the room, wailing at the unfairness of it all. You ought not to baby her, Sara. She must learn that she can't have everything her own way. Privately, Sara thought that Lottie was not the only student at the school who might need to learn that lesson. Oh, we could also do... No, we're gonna do Lottie. That's what we set out to do. We're gonna do Lottie. Sarah's room was a bright little jewel in the sometimes drab nest that was Miss Minchin's select seminary. It remained a bright jewel even when Sara was not inside, which could be seen now by the small figure that crept in through the open door. Lottie closed the door behind her, then climbed up onto Sara's bed. She placed her legs just a little bit apart and carefully patted down her skirt to ensure that the petticoats were shown exactly as much and as little as intended.
I'm a dolly.
Then she laid her arms at her side, tilted back her head, and waited. A minute later, Sara and her maid Mariette entered the room. A flower that looks the same upside down as it does right side up, but I can't think of... Her voice paused briefly as she came into the room, and Lottie knew she must have been noticed. Quickly, she closed her eyes. She would never be able to keep a straight face if she looked at Sara. After that moment, Sara continued, "My goodness, Emily must have been busy today. I think she was in such a hurry to get back to her seat when we came in that she didn't quite reach the same position." "I see, mademoiselle. Will you tell us what you have been up to, Emily?" "No? You are very good at keeping secrets. I think we ought to change her clothes and get her ready for bed. She must be very tired. Do not forget the new doll." Lottie fought not to giggle, imagining Sara picking her up next and changing her clothes like a doll. But she had to keep her eyes shut or she would spoil the joke. "Oh, I'm sure she'll be fine. Dolls have to know how to be still for very long periods of time. A doll in a shop window where everyone can see her must stand for hours and hours without even blinking. I would not like to try it, standing so long. Here, take Emily's shoes and put them away safely. It would be terrible if she lost them. She needs to be able to run quickly." "Yes, mademoiselle." Lottie began to realize that no one intended to pay any attention to her. Sara and Mariette continued to fuss over Emily, adjusting her nightgown and her pillows. The new doll was utterly neglected. Lottie couldn't help herself any longer. She whined. "What was that? Oh, Lottie, when did you come in? I thought you were a doll."
I don't want to be a doll. Being a doll is boring.
"Well, I think it's interesting enough for a doll to be a doll, but it's not so much fun for a girl to be one. Don't you think, Mariette?" "As you say, mademoiselle." While Sara was walking through the school, she heard a great commotion coming from a nearby room. The first high-pitched shriek made her startle, concerned that one of the younger girls might have injured herself. Sara was a quiet and solemn girl herself, but made no judgment against those whose temperaments led them to cry out loudly when they were in pain. However, the wailing went on, more angry than miserable, and the voice was recognizably Lottie's. Sara came closer and began to make out the accompaniment of frustrated adult that had been drowned out by childish tantrum. "What are you crying for? There is nothing wrong with you."
Oh, I haven't got any mama."
"Stop crying, for heaven's sake!"
"I haven't got any mama."
"You ought to be whipped. You shall be whipped if you do not hush, you naughty child." Lottie wailed more loudly than ever. Miss Minchin emerged from the room, her hands pressed to the side of her head, and paused when she saw Sara lingering outside. "Oh, dear Sara." Miss Minchin's attempt at producing a friendly smile was not at all convincing. Lottie's roars continued unabated, and each burst of sound made Miss Minchin's shoulders twitch. I stopped because I knew it was Lottie, and I thought perhaps, just perhaps, I could make her be quiet. May I try, Miss Minchin? If you can quiet that, you are a clever child. Dreadful thing, we may not be able to keep her. But you are clever in everything, my dear. I dare say you can manage her. Go in. I said this before, but I love that she's like, we can't keep her. I'm sure if her father pays an extensive amount, you'll keep her, because you will do anything for money, you horrible, horrible woman. When Sara entered the room, Lottie was lying upon the floor, screaming and kicking her small fat legs violently. Sara stood by the howling, furious child for a few moments and looked down at her without saying anything. Then she sat down flat on the floor and beside her and waited. Except for Lottie's angry screams, the room was quite quiet. This was a new state of affairs for Lottie, who was accustomed to hearing other people protest and implore and command and coax her by turns. To find that the only person near her did not seem to mind in the least how she kicked and screamed was unusual, and it made it necessary for her to pause her sobbing in order to see what was going on. She opened her tight-shut, streaming eyes to see who this person was, and found that it was only another little girl, but it was the one who owned Emily and all the nice things. Sara looked at Lottie quite curiously, but said nothing. Lottie sucked in a gulp of air, but the noise she made sounded rather half-hearted. I haven't any mama. Neither have I. Lottie blinked rapidly at this unexpected answer. Her legs and arms ceased their kicking and lay flat against the floor. Where is your mama? She went to heaven, but I am sure she comes out sometimes to see me, though I don't see her. So does yours. Perhaps they can both see us now. Perhaps they are both in this room. Here? Lottie sat bolt upright and looked around. Seeing nothing, her face began to scrunch up again. We can't see the people who live in heaven, even when they come to visit us. They travel like wind or sunlight. You can only feel them for a moment if they touch you, and then they're gone. They can go anywhere in an instant, but most of the time they stay up above. Their land is full of lilies, fields and fields of lilies, and when the soft wind blows over them, it wafts the scent of them into the air. And everybody always breathes it, because the soft wind is always blowing. Wind and sunlight and the streets are always shining. And little children run about in the lily fields and gather armfuls of them, and laugh and make little wreaths to wear on their heads, or spin cloaks and dresses of soft lily petals. The petals never go dry or brown, but when the children grow tired of them, they toss the petals into the air, and they turn into clouds. Lottie had now quite forgotten to cry, and was leaning forward, hanging on every word that Sara spoke. In that shining city, people are never tired, however far they walk. They can float anywhere they like. And there are walls made of pearl and gold all round the city, but they are low enough for the people to go and lean on them, and look down onto the earth and smile. From those walls, sometimes, they dance down to visit us. Other times, they whisper beautiful messages into the wind, and hope that someday we will hear them. Oh, I want to go there. I haven't any mama here. Sara saw the danger signal and took hold of Lottie's hand with a coaxing little laugh. I will be your mama in the school. We will play that you are my little girl, and Emily shall be your sister. Oh no!
Shall she?
Yes, let us go and tell her, and then I will wash your face and brush your hair, and both of us shall have a little bit more family. I do like that scene a lot. That line, and then we shall have a little bit more family. I'm just like, oof, so good. So much sympathy. Alright.
Sara, mama, can you tell me more about your mama? What was she like?
Oh. Sara set her cup down. I never met her. Not really. So I only know what my papa and his friends have told me.
You never met her?
No. She died when I was born. Do you remember your mother?
A little bit, but not very much. I'm afraid I'll forget.
You must have been very young. No one expects you to remember everything perfectly.
But isn't it bad if all I have is a little and I lose it?
You don't have to remember it all yourself. You can ask other people who knew your mother to tell you about her. Sara had a faraway little smile on her face, the sort that she developed sometimes when she was supposing a story. My mother was from France. She had long dark hair and a sparkling laugh. That is what my papa said first caught his attention. I don't think that I have a sparkling laugh. I believe I am more like my papa that way. I should like to hear someone else sparkle.
Do I have a sparkly laugh?
I don't know. What does it sound like when you laugh? Lottie's eyes swept back and forth, and her little forehead wrinkled.
I can't laugh with you looking at me.
Well, maybe I will hear it someday when I am not looking.
Tell me more. Was your mama beautiful and perfect?
I don't think any person is perfect, but everyone says she was beautiful and calm and kind. Lottie fidgeted in her seat. She scooped up one of the little sugared biscuits and popped it into her mouth, all in one go. That required a good minute of chewing before she spoke again.
Do you ever think about if you'll be like your mama when you grow up?
Not very often, no. In truth, while Sara was certainly aware that she had once had a mother and her natural curiosity had brought about a few questions and answers, it was not a matter that greatly occupied her thoughts. Never having known her, Sara had never had reason to miss her. Her absence was not a cause of sadness or reflection. It was nothing like the pain of being separated from her beloved papa. I suppose that I must become like her in some ways, as children do.
But she died. When she became a mama, she died.
Well then, I am already different, because I am already Emily's mother, and yours as well. Reminded of her duties, Sara fetched a handkerchief and brushed at Lottie's face. You are getting crumbs everywhere. You should be careful not to get your dress dirty. Your sister Emily is very good at keeping her clothes clean. You should look to her as your example. She is a model daughter. That's what Miss Minchin always calls people, a model or a show. Lottie could not help but giggle. Girls, gather around, if you please. As the weather is particularly pleasant today, we will be taking carriages to the park for extended riding lessons. Please dress accordingly. Oh, thank goodness, it's been too long. I have never greatly cared for horses. It is fashionable, and a lady should know at least the basics, but it is simply not comfortable. Do you ride, Sara? I would not truly say that I ride, but I have met horses and been in the saddle once or twice. Well, I'm sure you'll learn. You learn everything after all. I do try. I like riding. I wish we could go further than the park, though. It is more pleasant to be on horseback in the countryside. Oh, I agree. It is much lovelier. Imagine being on horseback, galloping across the wild moors, long hair streaming behind you like a warrior queen of old. Riding astride like some hoyden. Even Boadicea rode in a chariot. I think I should like a chariot. Just then their discussion were interrupted by the sound of a wailing child. Miss Minchin was attempting to bring little Lolly together with the older girls, much to her displeasure.
I won't go! I won't! I won't!
What a ridiculous noise you are making! Stop that at once!
Shan't!
You are more than old enough to begin learning. Every student at this school is expected to.
I hate horses! I won't! I won't!
Flinching and covering their ears with their hair, the other girls slipped away to change into riding dress. Only Sara remained. If you don't behave, you shall be whipped, just as the horse would be.
No!
To Sara's surprise, Lottie suddenly broke free of Miss Minchin and rushed to Sara, cowering behind her and pressing her wet face into the fabric of Sara's dress. Is this more than just a tantrum? Miss Minchin, please, could you let me talk to her alone? Dear Sara, you are very kind, but we simply do not have time for these shenanigans. If you can make her mind swiftly, then do so, but it must be done. Shaking her head, she walked away. Lottie wiped her grubby hands across her face. Her shrieks had quieted, but her eyes were still little fountains. Lottie, are you afraid of horses?
Yes.
Well then, no wonder that you are upset. This cheerful justification startled Lottie enough to leave her frozen in mid-sniffle, mouth hanging open. Sara nodded and continued. It is normal to be upset about things that frighten you. Only, I think it is also normal to try and make yourself less frightened, if you can. You wouldn't want to be afraid forever. Horses are very large, but they also can be kind and sweet. They like apples and carrots and being petted, just like cats do. Lottie now seemed more confused and distraught. Perhaps today you should just go and meet the horses. Then you can come back and play with Sybil.
What if Lavinia won't let me?
Then we shall wait until she is not looking, and while we wait, I will tell you about the horse who rescued a lost prince. She held out her hand, and after a moment, Lottie took it. We can't do Lavinia till week 14, but we can do Lottie! Lottie had climbed up into the window nook, her little nose pressed against the glass, but what she was looking at, Sara could not see. Lottie, are you watching something?
Sara, Mama!
The little girl ran, stumbling, to Sara's embrace.
Wasn't watching. I was thinking.
What were you thinking about?
Horses?
Oh, yes. Sara brushed Lottie's curls with her hand in a comforting manner. Lottie, is there a reason that horses frighten you so? Perhaps she was bitten by one once, but if that is not the reason, I don't want to suggest it to her. Horses have very large teeth, but almost never bite people.
It's because they can turn into monsters, like the one that killed my mama.
A horse killed your mother? Lottie nodded, her eyes wide.
That's why my papa shot it, like yours, with the tiger.
What? Was it a wild horse? It seemed a somewhat morbid topic of conversation, but Sara could not help being curious. There were not many stories of monstrous horses in her repertoire. Wild stallions might stampede, and a fairy horse might take off with a rider on its back, never to be seen again. But monsters?
It was her horse. I don't want to talk about horses.
No, I suppose you don't. Must have been a riding accident. A horse can't live with a broken leg. If the horse fell, that could be how Lottie's mother was injured, and why her father had to shoot the horse. Lottie doesn't seem to understand, but understanding wouldn't make her any less afraid of riding. Well, I am sorry if I upset you. The look Lottie gave her was surprisingly mischievous.
You made me really sad, Sara, Mama. Will you tell me a story now to cheer me up?
Is she not upset then? Well, if I am to play the mama. Have you finished all of your schoolwork?
Oh.
If we look at some books together first, then I will tell you a story afterwards. Perhaps you would like to practice a bit of French.
I'm too little to speak French.
Oh, I see. She paused then, tapping her fingers against her chin, saying nothing until Lottie could not bear it and burst out with,
What are you thinking?
It must be very quiet in French schools if none of the children can speak. No problem. Oh, need 2 knowledge, 8 vigor. Okay, I can do that.
Hurry up, Sara, Mama. I want to show you the best gingerbread. It has sugar flowers on top.
Don't run ahead. Lottie was still too young to leave the seminary and explore London on her own, but Sara's company was considered sufficient guidance and protection. It was a warm and pleasant day, and Sara had seen no need for a carriage. Instead, the two of them were stretching their legs along the streets of London, on their way to the shops. Unfortunately, Lottie was an inconstant traveling companion. She did not care to walk hand in hand, but instead would leap from point to point, ducking through gaps between passerbys where Sara could not follow. Sara was not an inactive child, but neither was she one who enjoyed a high-speed chase, particularly one peppered with human obstacles. It did not suit her dignity. Lottie, please walk slowly.
Fine.
She stopped in place, allowing Sara to catch up. But as Sara passed her, she remained still on the sidewalk. Lottie?
I am walking slowly. I'll be behind you.
All right. Sara proceeded on their intended route, making a few quick checks behind her to be sure that Lottie was actually following and not staying in that one spot forever. As long as I am not in front and walking at a normal pace, she can see me easily, so she won't get lost. So she thought, until at last, after crossing an intersection, she looked behind her, and Lottie was nowhere to be seen. Lottie? She waited in place for a while, hoping that the smaller girl was simply lagging on her shorter legs, but minutes passed, and there was no sign of her. Thus began a frantic search. First, Sara rushed back along the streets to the last place she had seen her, in case Lottie had decided to stop, had fallen and injured herself. Nothing. Then, Remembering that Lottie knew the way to the bakery and might have taken another route there as a surprise, Sara rushed in that direction. Her worry was now such that she demanded passage between people with only the briefest of pardons, and she was quite out of breath when she arrived. But Lottie was not there, and the baker had not seen her. "What will I do? I was supposed to protect her. I cannot return to Miss Minchin's without her. I won't. She's my daughter. I have to find her." However, she had no clear idea of where else to search. Sara walked up and down the streets, clutching at the fabric of her skirt in distress. Adults often smiled at Sara as she walked, charming and well-dressed as she was. Seeing her worried face, those same interested souls would pause to ask her what might the matter be. Fortunately, no one remembered seeing a little girl of Lottie's description, at least not clearly enough to indicate where she might be. With no better option, Sara returned again to the bakery, still no Lottie, and then, once more, retraced her steps back in the direction of Miss Minchin's Select Seminary. At last, she heard a sound that simultaneously made her heart leap and her ears cringe, the wailing of a distressed little girl. "Lottie!"
Sara, Mama!
Lottie clutched desperately at Sara's sleeve, bawling until it seemed that her entire face would melt away. It took some time to get a clear explanation out of her. She had been lagging behind for the fun of it, keeping Sara in sight up ahead, but fell too far back and had to hurry to keep up. Lottie had followed a distant head, which she thought was Sara's, down a wrong turning. When she finally caught up to the figure, she discovered that it was a stranger and did not know what to do. She had stood in place waiting for someone to find her for some time, but no one came, and at last she succumbed to tears of despair.
I thought you went home, and no one would ever find me again. So I tried to go home.
It's a good thing that she did. If she hadn't gone back on her own, I might never have found her. She did find her way here. She might have been able to retrace her steps all the way to Miss Minchin's seminary, but I'm not sure I should say that and encourage her to go off alone. Instead, Sara rocked and cuddled her daughter and petted her curls. This was not a tantrum for attention such as Lottie had sometimes created. She needed the comfort. "Now that we've found ourselves, let's go and find some gingerbread, all right?"
"Will you carry me?"
"You are too big for that."
"I am not too big."
"Then I am too small." "It would be nice if I could carry Lottie in my arms, the way that I carry Emily, but it would not work for long. I can't hold you up the whole way to the bakery, but I can hold your hand. See? Put your hand here and don't let go, and then you won't be lost."
"Yes, Sara, Mama."
Sara was awoken from her sleep by the sound of knocking. "Ah, qu'est-ce se passe-t-il?" "It's all right. I'll get the door." "Oh, Lottie?"
"Sara, Mama."
The younger girl clung to Sara.
"I had a bad dream, and the monster was gonna eat me, and then I woke up, and it was dark, and I thought I saw something. Bones! There were bones in my room! Monster bones!"
"Shh, it's all right. Mariette, where are my slippers?" The maid brought the fluffy white shoes for Sara to slip her feet into. "I will walk you back to your room and show you that it's safe." Yeah. They went into the hallway together, two little girls in the dark.
"You're not mad? I woke you up."
"Well, I want to sleep, but you want to sleep too. And if you're too afraid, you can't sleep. But if I help you, then we both can." Lottie blinked her eyes a few times, but said nothing. "There we are. See? No bones, just a tree's shadow."
"Right."
She paused at the door.
"Sara, Mama, I didn't really think there were bones in my room. I mean, I thought it, but I didn't really believe it was true. I knew that it wasn't. I just wanted to feel better. I'm sorry."
Sara nodded slowly. Sometimes when you pretend things, even if you know behind the doors in your mind that they're not quite real, they still feel as if they were. It isn't wrong to believe in what you pretend. Lottie smiled.
"I will pretend that I'm going to have good dreams."
"That is a very nice thing to pretend. I believe I will too. And with that, she returned to her bed. Aww. Let's do... It'll take a lot to get sympathy back. I can get sympathy back. That'll be fine. Let's get Lottie. The knock at the door was quiet but clear.
Sara, Mama?
She caught her fingers in her hem, swaying on her toes.
Sara, Mama, can I sleep in your room sometimes? If I'm scared, or if I don't want to be alone?
Oh dear. It was not that Sara disliked Lottie or wished to avoid spending time with her. She was a naturally motherly little person, and Lottie's worshipful affection gave her a cozy feeling. However, as Lottie's mama, Sara felt she had the responsibility to instill not only good behaviors, but also some growing maturity into her young charge. Tantrums and nightmares were expected from infants, not from young ladies. Miss Minchin had already hinted that Lottie's place at the seminary might be forfeit if her temper did not improve. Everyone has their own rooms here. Isn't it proper for students to sleep alone?
But you don't. You have Emily and Mariette already. Can't you have me too?
Oh, thank you. I like the name Alex. That's a very nice name too. It's comforting. Thank you for saying my name is pretty. But yeah, I like your name, and I like Devin's name as well. Both very good names.
You have Emily and Mariette already. Can't you have me too?
They each have their own beds. They don't share mine. And you have your own bed in your room.
But I'm all alone in there. Oh, what if I get scared?
I don't believe that you're that easily frightened. I've seen you with the horses. They don't scare you as much as they used to. And that is a good thing. It means that you are growing up, just as you should.
But...
Lottie's chin wrinkled up as she pinched her lips together in a sulk.
Your room is so pretty and nice. I want to live here with you. Why can't I? I'm little. I can fit in the corner. I don't need much space.
You can sit in a corner, but all your things can't. You would miss your clothes and your toys. Lottie scowled. Am I being too hard on her? She's not used to being thwarted, and I don't want her to be sad. Lottie, I don't believe that you need a guardian in the night for your bad dreams, because you're too clever for that, and I don't want you to live in my room all of the time. Lottie's lip began to quiver threateningly. But I do like having you visit me. If you wish to stay in my room once in a while, as a special visit, then that will be all right.
Tonight? Can I visit tonight?
May you?
May I, Sara, Mama?
Yes, you may. It was odd, Sara mused, having another girl in her bed. Odd, but not entirely unpleasant. At first it seemed that Lottie would never settle down to sleep. She wiggled in place, touched Sara's legs with her cold feet, and wanted to talk about everything she'd eaten for dinner. A child such as Lottie was filled from head to toe with restless energy, but head to toe was not such a great distance in one so young. After an enormous yawn that seemed to expel all air from her body, Lottie fell silent at last, and minutes later was lost in sleep. If there had been another little girl at home with my papa and me, a sister or a playmate, we might have snuggled in together like this. Lottie's lips parted, emitting a sound too incoherent to be called a word. Her plump little fingers flexed and clutched, catching hold of the fabric of Sara's sleeve and clinging there.
Mama...
Am I encouraging her in the wrong ways, or the right ones? She is so small and so soft. She fits neatly into a lap to be cuddled. It would be a waste if she grew up too quickly. She is already too big to carry around. She is not a doll, not like Emily. She can be very troublesome, but somehow she does belong to me. She kissed Lottie's forehead, too softly to wake her. Good night, Lottie. 17. Alright. I think we can finish Lottie.
Look, Sara, Mama. Look what my papa sent me.
It was a necklace strung with tiny beads of pink coral. A nice bit of jewelry for a child, not overly ornate. That's very pretty. Does your papa often send you presents?
If I say I want them. The last time I wrote him, I told him we had a new student with a pretty room and a tea set and a dolly and dresses and jewels. So I knew he'd give me something nice.
She held up the necklace.
It's not as pretty as Emily, though.
Oh dear, she is rather spoiled, isn't she? It isn't very wise to ask people to give you presents all of the time. In fairy stories, the stepsisters who ask witches for too many gifts end up with curses instead.
I didn't ask.
She folded her arms stubbornly.
I just say how sad I am so people give me things.
God damn, Lottie! It isn't very kind, especially if you're not truly sad.
I am sad. I haven't any mama. That makes me very sad.
What is it? Gatekeep gaslight girl boss. Lottie is gatekeep gaslight girl bossin'. But you do. You have me, remember? Yeah? Yeah. Do you want to watch some Adventure Time after I'm done? No? Oh, okay, sorry. Then I will give you the food. It's okay. Just leave whatever's mine, and I will grab it. Lottie frowned, caught in a trap of logic. If she denied it, she might lose her precious companion. But if she accepted Sara's statement, she might lose her excuse for pouting.
I haven't any mama at home. My papa is all alone. That makes me sad.
The result was not quite what Lottie had expected. Sara was herself quite concerned about her papa, left all alone in India without her company. That makes me sad as well. Lottie stamped her foot.
You're not supposed to be sad. I don't want you to be sad.
She scowled for a moment, then brightened with a thought and held out the necklace of coral beads.
Here.
That was a present from your papa to you. You should keep it. It isn't kind to give away presents that were given to you with love.
I suppose I'm bad at kind?
She paused as another idea occurred to her.
If you really were my mama, you could take care of me always and make me better. If you married my papa, you could be my real mama.
Oh, Lottie. Married? Queer as it might seem, Sara was a young girl who had never once contemplated a married life. She had a few examples of marriages in action to draw upon. The servants of her old house kept their families at a distance. Even here, she had few examples of marriage. Even here, Miss Minchin was unmarried. What, then, was marriage to Sara? I'm sure your papa is very charming, but I do not wish to marry anyone. When I complete my schooling in England, I will return to India to be with my papa.
Oh, maybe I should marry your papa so I could go with you?
God, Lottie! I do not think my papa has any desire to marry either, and you are far too young.
I'll get older.
Yes, you will. Lottie will grow up, but she will always be younger than I am. Go and put your necklace away. You should write to your papa and thank him for the present. Gatekeep, gaslight, girl boss.
Yes, Sara, Mama.
She wants to be her daughter so bad. Captain Crew is dead. He has died without a penny. This spoiled, pampered, fanciful child has left a papa on my hands. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this and let's hope the game works. So yeah, we're gonna try and finish okay, sorry, my brain shut off. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and finish Little Lily Princess tonight. That's the hope, that's the plan. Welcome in, everybody. Enjoy yourselves. We're gonna do Lottie's route first, and then we're gonna do Lavinia's route, and then we're gonna end on Becky. So, let's do Lottie. Let's get Lottie out of the way, because she's just she's chill. But she's just kinda there. Not my fave, not my least fave. She just, she just exists. For the very youngest of Miss Minchin's students, who did not know what adversity was, the alteration in Sara's appearance and activities was nothing short of bewildering. No, you're fine. Welcome in, Insane Engineer. Welcome in. Have you ever played a Little Lily Princess or heard of it? It's a really fun visual novel based on a classic book. It's the game is much gayer than the book, but I'm finishing all the routes today with the final girls that I need to do. I'm sadly going to be skipping the main story just because I've went through the story twice already. I was just sort of sitting, or I was just sort of I've done like twice now. I've read through the main story, so I hope it's okay if I kind of just skip over the main story and get to the character things. Basically, we were once a really rich but nice girl who went to a boarding school while her father went back to India because he was like settled there. And we basically had this really perfect life, and we were really good at everything, and again, very like well behaved but also very rich. And then our father died, and we went from being rich to poor. And the proprietress, the headmistress of the school, who was once sort of like giving us praises for everything because we were going to be filthy rich and like like so luxurious and basically like richer than anyone. After we ended up being poor, she was like, "Oh well, I paid for all these things because I thought that that I would be reimbursed. But now that he's dead and he has no money, and I have nothing but this little child, I'm gonna basically put her to work." So now we're at the second half of the story where we are living the life of a little pauper child. For the very youngest of Miss Minchin's students who did not know what adversity was, the alteration in Sarah's appearance and activities was nothing short of bewildering. Her father had died. That much was understood from the announcements that had been made at the party, when all festivities were cut short. But what it meant beyond the sadness of the event, they did not know. There had been much whispering among the little ones when it had been discovered that Sara no longer lived in the rooms in which Emily had so long sat in state. Had she left school? Was she gone forever? It was, at first, a matter of relief to see her sitting at meals or assisting in the classroom. She was not gone, would not go away. But why did she wear such an old black frock? And why did she no longer sit in her place of honor to learn lessons herself? That the youngest could not understand at all. For most, it was an unimportant mystery soon put out of their minds. Lottie, however, took more of an interest in her adoptive mother. She did not quite understand the weight of Sara's circumstances, but she was old enough to be both curious and concerned.
Are you very poor now, Sara? Are you as poor as a beggar?
She thrust her plump hand into Sara's slim one and squeezed earnestly.
I don't want you to be as poor as a beggar.
She looks as if she's going to cry. To cry. For me. I cannot let her do that. Beggars have nowhere to live. I have a place to live in, so I am not a beggar.
Where do you live? The new girl sleeps in your room now, and it isn't pretty anymore.
I live in another room.
Is it a nice one? I want to go and see it.
You must not talk. Miss Minchin is looking at us.
But...
Okay. She will be angry with me for letting you whisper. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's up. I apologize. She would be angry with me for letting you whisper. Now that I am no longer her precious pupil, I am held accountable for everything which might be objected to. If the children are not attentive, if they talk, if they are restless, I am the one who will be scolded. Please, Lottie, be a good girl and do not fuss. Yeah. I think I've been hearing that Twitch has been having some problems a bit, so I don't think it's necessarily just my stream. Not to say that I'm still not. Apologies for that, but Lottie's route. Lottie's chief difficulty was that Sara said so little when no one asked her questions. She meant only to be friendly and did not understand why Sara always turned her away. But Lottie was a determined little person. If Sara would not tell her where she lived, she would just have to find out in some other way. Yeah, I like that there's all the emojis too. Her small companions knew nothing useful, so she then hung about the elder girls and listened while they were gossiping. Acting upon certain information they had unconsciously let drop, she started late one afternoon on a voyage of discovery, climbing stairs she had never been known the existence of until she reached the attic. There she found 2 doors near each other, and, opening one, she saw her beloved Sara standing on a narrow bed and looking out of a window.
Sara? Sara, Mama?
She was aghast because the attic was so bare and ugly and seemed so far away from all the world. Her short legs seemed to have been mounting hundreds of stairs. This could not be her Sara's room. Lottie? How did she find me here? What will I do? If she begins to cry and someone chances to hear, we will both be punished. Sara jumped down from her bed and ran to the child. Please, don't cry and make a noise. I shall be scolded if you do, and I have been scolded all day.
But...
She looked from place to place, taking in the filth, the cracks, the lack of books and pretty things, and her eyes were wide with horror. It's not such a bad room, Lottie.
Isn't it?
She bit her lip, forcing herself to be quiet. Spoiled though she was fond enough of her adopted parent to make an effort to control herself for her sake. 2. She was accustomed to believing and obeying the things that Sara said. If Sara claimed that the room was nice, perhaps it might somehow be so.
Why isn't it bad, Sara, Mama? Isn't it lonely?
Sara hugged her close and tried to laugh. There was a sort of comfort in the warmth of the plump, childish body. It is beautiful, in its way. You can see all sorts of things that you can't see from downstairs.
What sorts of things?
Chimneys, quite close up to us, with smoke curling up in wreaths and clouds and going up into the sky. And sparrows hopping about and talking to each other, just as if they were people. And other attic windows where heads may pop out any minute, and you can wonder who they belong to. And it all feels as high up as if it were another world.
Oh, let me see. Lift me up.
Sara lifted her up, and they stood on the old mattress together and leaned on the edge of the flat window in the roof and looked out. The slate spread out on either side of them and slanted down into the rain gutter pipes. The sparrows, being at home there, twittered and hopped about quite without fear. The garret window next to theirs was shut, because the house next door was empty. I wish someone lived there. It is so close that if there was a little girl in the attic, we could talk to each other through the windows and climb over to see each other, if we were not afraid of falling. Okay, no problem. Have a good one. Rest well if you're going to bed. Or if you're just heading out, I'll see you next time, okay? It's close. I wish someone lived there. It is so close that if there was a little girl in the attic, we could talk to each other through the windows and climb over to see each other, if we were not afraid of falling. The sky seemed so much nearer that Lottie was enchanted. From the attic window, among the chimney pots, the things which were happening in the world below seemed almost unreal. One scarcely believed in the existence of Miss Minchin and the schoolroom, and the roll of wheels in the square seemed a sound belonging to another existence.
Oh, Sara, I like this attic. I like it. It is nicer than downstairs.
Sara cuddled the girl in her guarding arm and smiled to herself. Now she need not worry about me. Look at that sparrow over there, Lottie. See how bold and bright he is? I wish I had some crumbs to throw to him.
I have some. I have part of a bun in my pocket. I bought it with my penny yesterday, and I saved a bit.
He scattered the crumbs and waited for the sparrow to dare to come close enough to steal them. He did, and even brought a friend, and the friend went away and brought a relative, and among them they made a hearty meal over which they twittered and chattered and exclaimed. Lottie was so delighted that she quite forgot her first shocked impression of the attic. Now, you had better get back down to your own bedroom. You have schoolwork to do.
May I come and visit you again, Sara Mama?
You really should not. No, if I tell her not to return, she will think that I hate her and be upset. Miss Minchin would not like for you to be here. Therefore, you can only visit if no one sees you, and not often.
A secret?
Yes, Lottie, our secret.
Yes, Sara Mama.
When Sara had persuaded Lottie to go downstairs again, and, after setting her on her way, had come back to her attic, she stood in the middle of it and looked about her. Misery was rife plain on every wall, an existence so pitiful that even a frivolous child might be startled into tears by the sight. It is a lonely place. Sometimes it's the loneliest place in the world.
Oh, Sara!
It makes me so sad when she tries so hard not to let anyone know. Alright. Lottie.
Sara!
Sara was walking between rooms with a basket of clothes when she heard Lottie's excited cry.
Sara Mama, come and see what my papa sent me.
I am busy, Lottie. I can't come right now. I'm not supposed to visit students in their rooms and be friendly with them.
You're always busy. Why are you always busy?
I can't explain to her that I have to work. She wouldn't understand. Lottie rushed up and began to tug at Sara's hand.
Please, Sara Mama, please come and look. It won't take long.
Lottie! Oh no. Miss Minchin's stern expression did not bode well for Sara's continued well-being. However, to her relief, she did not appear to be the primary focus of disapproval. Miss Lay, your behavior is most inappropriate. Get on with your chores, Sara. You will not be punished in this instance, as you do not appear to have been at fault, but do not encourage her in the future. Yes, Miss Minchin.
I don't understand.
Sara Crewe is no longer a student at the seminary.
But she's here.
She is here as a servant. She is not the same as you. She is the same as Becky or any other from downstairs. They are your lessers. You speak to them to give them commands. Keep to your place and keep her in hers. She is not your mamma or your friend, and you must not treat her as if she were.
Then I don't have any mamma.
Lottie's eyes swelled with tears, but the stone matron was unmoved. It is time to put this fancy behind you. Lottie took a step backwards, lost and uncertain, then turned and fled for the safety of her room. A working kitchen is not a quiet and peaceful place, and the one at Miss Minchin's was no exception. Yeah, Miss Minchin. Even a cook was not delivering a piece of her mind to anyone unfortunate enough to cross her path. There was bubbling and boiling and steaming and chopping and scrubbing and never any rest. As such, by the time Sara heard even a trace of the ruckus, it had already overwhelmed the rest of the school. What is that howling? Was an animal injured outside? Becky ran into the room, a hand clamped over one ear and the other pressed protectively against her shoulder. Miss Minchin says please come. Away from the kitchen, the source of the sound was immediately familiar. Lottie? Miss Minchin emerged from her room with a look of pain on her face. That child is impossible! If I could lock her underground until she made herself hoarse without disturbing the others. Ah, Sara, there you are. You have had some success with her before. Make her be quiet, or it will go ill for both of you. She hurried away, clearly eager to leave the matter in Sara's hands. Oh dear. Inside the room, Lottie was sprawled out on the floor on her back, arms and legs thrown wide. This time, she did not kick and struggle, only arched her back and let out another tooth-rattling scream. Sara could not help but sigh. I'm sure she is upset, but I'm so tired. Before she could come up with any strategy for dealing with the latest tantrum, Lottie took a pause for breath. Her tear-sodden eyes fluttered open.
Sara, Mama, I'm sad.
I know. Lottie's little fingers clutched at the air, as if trying to drag Sara down to her level.
I need you. Please sit.
Sara sighed again, sinking onto the hard floor. It was some relief from standing, perhaps, but not exactly comfort. Lottie sniffed loudly, then wriggled around to press her wet cheek against Sara's leg. No screams appeared to be forthcoming. Her storms have lifted so quickly. Lottie, were you only pretending to be sad?
No.
You seem much approved.
That's because you're here.
Were you making a great and noisy fuss on purpose so that someone would send me here to see you? Lottie buried her face in Sara's skirts and said nothing. Her shoulders twitched, but Sara could not tell if that signaled renewed crying or silent, wicked laughter. You should not do such things. If Miss Minchin thought I had encouraged you in such a scheme, she would punish me. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm glad it was so spot on.
Miss Minchin said I'm not supposed to have a mama.
That's not...
If I didn't make her let me see you, I wouldn't see you.
She wound her soft arms around Sara's waist.
Don't you want to see me?
I am very busy.
You shouldn't be. You're tired. You should sit more and tell stories more. Maybe you should cry more.
That would not work for me. If I screamed like Lottie does, Miss Minchin would toss me into the streets. It may not always work for you either.
But I need you, Sara Mama. Who else will tell me how to be good?
Oh, Lottie. There seemed little else to say. At least curling up on the floor with her disobedient daughter was a brief respite from harsher duties. Yeah, who's sassy child? Yeah, I work at a toy store. So, sometimes there are kids who, they're super excited about the toys, but then the parents gotta go, and the kids don't want to leave the toy store, so they tend to get a little fussy. And sometimes, parents bring in their, babies, and babies just, baby's just gonna baby, so, yeah. I've unfortunately not, Oh no, I need more pride! God, why do I always need pride? Lottie, why are you so prideful? Damn child. Be less prideful. Yeah. Final boss, Lottie.
Sara, Mama?
Lottie, what are you doing here?
I was careful. I was very careful, just like you said. Nobody was looking, and I walked up on the tips of my toes up the stairs just like in dance class.
Well then, I am happy to see you. Lottie jammed her hands into her pockets.
I brought a bun so I can feed the birdies.
She withdrew from her dress a golden oblong of pastry, only slightly squashed. Its zigzag pattern of sticky sugar paste decorated its top, occasionally marred by bits of clinging fluff from Lottie's pocket. Just by looking at it, Sara could tell that it was fresh baked today, and that inside that pastry shell it would be filled with sweet, tart lemon custard. Aroused from its slumber by such a sight, her stomach let out a weak growl.
Sara?
It's nothing.
Are you hungry?
No. I can't tell her about my troubles. She's too young. I don't want her to worry.
Do you want my bun?
No, of course not. You brought that for the birds. Come up here. Lottie climbed onto the bed, but, with a worried expression, tore her bun in half and gave the bigger piece to Sara. Ignoring her stomach, Sara calmly tore the half bun to pieces and scattered them for the sparrows. See how they chatter with each other?
Yes. Sara, Mama, it's very pretty out the window, but your room isn't very nice inside.
So Sara is, in the original book, she was young. She was like 10. Because she had been living at that school for a while, and it was implied she had lived at least, I think, 2 to 3 years at that school. 1 year as like a pupil, and then maybe 2 years as like a servant. I don't remember how long, but she was supposed to basically be there for most of her schooling, and then she would eventually get to go back, because it's like a dormitory is the idea. Like, they go to a school, they study until they're of age, and then they go back home, is sort of the idea. So in the books, she was much younger, and like Lottie was like 4 in the original, I think, like very little. She was like a kid. In this story, because it's sort of a visual novel and it's a lesbian dating sim, although thankfully Lottie is a platonic route and not a romantic route. There are 2 platonic routes and 4 romantic routes. Sara seems to be more in the 14, 15 age. She's like a young, she's like a teenager. Again, this story is very sweet and very like simple, and at most you're gonna get like a kiss here or there, but she's about, like, I would say around 14 or 15 in this.
Sara, Mama, it's very pretty out the window, but your room isn't very nice inside.
Of course it is. You have to look with the eyes inside your mind. It is so little and so high above everything that it is almost like a nest in a tree. The slanting ceiling is so funny. When the morning begins to come, I can lie in bed and look right up into the sky through that flat window in the roof. When it rains, the drops patter against the glass as if they were whispering nice things to me. And when it is clear at night, I can count the stars. And just look at that tiny rusty grate in the corner. If it was polished and there was fire in it, just think how nice it would be. You see, it's really a beautiful little room. She took Lottie's hands and guided her around the small room, making gestures to indicate all the beauties that she was making herself see. You see, there could be a thick, soft blue Indian rug on the floor, and in that corner there could be a soft little sofa with cushions to curl up on. And just over it could be a shelf full of books so that one could reach them easily. And there could be a fur rug before the fire, and hangings on the wall, and pretty little pictures. That table in the middle could have a lacy cloth over it, and things to have tea with, and a little fat copper kettle singing on the hob. Oh yeah. She is both. It's both anime, but she, in the books, in the original book too, she also becomes a substitute mom for this little girl in the books, because this little girl is like, my mom is dead and I'm sad, and Sarah's like, oh well, my mom's dead too, so I'll be your mom and you'll be my daughter and we'll both have a little family. So she's like a surrogate kind of friend mother figure to her. So of course, thank you, I'm glad you're enjoying this. Sorry again that I'm not able to go into everything. I know there's a lot of things that are being left out. If you ever want to see the story all the way through, I do have the main story as well as one of the routes on my YouTube, and that goes into everything. It goes into the main story, it goes into one of the girls' routes. I'm planning in the future to like get all the routes of all the girls I've done and put them in a segmented list, but the first playthrough I did just a complete run of it. Heck yeah. Batman and Robin. That table in the middle could have a lacy cloth over it, and things to have tea with, and a little fat copper kettle singing on the hob. And the bed could be quite different. It could be made soft and covered with a lovely silk coverlet. It could be beautiful. Do you see it? Lottie had her eyes closed, smiling. She always could believe in the things Sara made pictures of.
Yes, it is a nice room.
Sara patted her on her head and sent her on her way. Once Lottie was gone, the enchanted room of her imaginings faded with her. The bed was hard and covered with a dingy quilt, The whitewashed wall showed its broken patches. The floor was cold and bare. The grate was broken and rusty. The mere fact that Lottie had come and gone away again made things seem a little worse, just as perhaps prisoners feel a little more desolate after visitors come and go, leaving them behind. Sara sat down on the battered chair and let her head drop into her hands. I can't tell you. I can't. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really like to voice act, so it's very passionate. I get really into characters, so I enjoy doing. And I like being able to do it for games like these because it gives me a small amount of characters to voice, but it gives me a lot more time to focus.
I hate your voice acting because it's really good and it makes me sad hearing you play sad Sara.
No, I'm sorry. I don't know if you guys heard that, but my girlfriend is sweet. Oh, are you taking a shower? Oh, I kind of wanted to join. Is that okay? You have tomorrow off, right?
Yeah.
You want to take? You can go ahead and just take it.
I'm gonna go take a shower.
Okay, you have fun.
I feel dirty.
Yeah, that's okay. I wasn't really gonna shower. I wasn't gonna shower. I was just gonna chill. There she was, just walking down the street, my cute girlfriend.
Sara, Mama?
Hello, Lottie. The little girl had snuck up to the attic again, this time carrying a basket draped with cloth. Sara wondered if she was trying to help by gathering her own laundry.
Is Becky here?
Becky, are you gonna watch in the... Okay. I think I replayed this again. I do like Lottie a lot more. She's sweet. Like, she's a child, but yeah. It's comfy in a shower. Shower is warm. Mabel just sits on the floor of the shower and chills. Becky, she's in the other room.
Her room looks like yours, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right. Did you need her for something? I can go and get her.
No, I will knock on her door. You sit here.
Sara sat and waited while Lottie darted over to the side of the attic and then returned, leading a confused Becky by the hand. Miss? I'm not sure. Lottie, what did you want to tell us?
Miss Minton said that you and you are both the same, and I should treat you both the same.
She picked up the little basket and removed the handkerchief cover.
So I brought a lemon bun for each of you.
For me? Sara was stunned. She loved Lottie dearly, but she still knew her to be a spoiled and selfish child for whom getting her own way was the most important thing in the world. To consider Sara's hardships was an unusual stretch for her, but to notice Becky? I can't refuse. It would be unfair to Becky. She deserves a treat. Thank you, Lottie. That is very kind. Becky curtsied nervously, wobbling up and down like an apple in a wash basin. Thank you, miss. There was nothing for it then, but to take the buns and eat them. Lottie had been careful with her purchase this time. They weren't squashed or fuzzy at all. Lottie is more perceptive than I realized. She must have known I was hungry, even when I denied it. But she didn't fuss and argue with me. She found another way. Lottie is growing up. Yeah, right? That is really sweet. Damn. I might have to put Lottie higher on my list of the characters I like. I kind of put her lower just because at the time I was like, well, she's not a love interest, and I play these games for the romance, so she's just kind of already kind of at the bottom just because she's which again, I don't want her to be a romantic interest. Don't take that the wrong way. I like that she is a platonic route. I'm just saying because I play these games. Yeah, Mabel puts her phone in a little baggie and then just fucking chills in the shower. That's her go-to. No, she just gets it. Last time Sara got treats, she didn't get to have them. Because fucking Miss Minchin took them away. But yeah, no, Lottie. Replaying this again, Lottie is a lot sweeter than I remember, so I might have to add her overall higher than I initially had her. Just because this is a really sweet moment and she does care.
Sara! Sara!
I'm here. Lottie's gift of pastries had apparently been a one-time occurrence. Either she assumed that feeding them once solved all problems, or she had lost interest, and neither Sara nor Becky would beg for scraps. But even if she did not return bearing food, she did return.
It's cold in here.
Cold can be relaxing when you are tired.
I suppose.
She looked around the room as if hoping that a comfortable sofa would materialize, then finally climbed up onto the bed and leaned against Sara's shoulder.
Sara, Mama, what's your most accomplished?
What?
A most accomplished is when there's something that a noble lady is especially good at. Most accomplished handwriting, most accomplished singing, like that.
Hashtag give mention the pension, yes! Oh, accomplishments.
That's what I said.
I do not think that I am very accomplished. My handwriting is not especially beautiful. I am no good at writing poetry. I have not learned to draw or paint or sing. I was learning to dance here at school, but I was only a beginning student, and I do not dance anymore. I speak French, but as I have never learned it, I do not think that it is an accomplishment.
But you must have most accomplished. You're wise and clever. Miss Minchin said you were the most accomplished pupil at school.
She said those things because she wished to sound polite.
You read books and dance and speak French and recite stories? That will do. What's your favorite color?
Oh, rose or red, I think. Red is a wonderfully warm and comfortable color.
What's your favorite flower?
I like a lot of flowers. I suppose, if I had to pick one, lilies perhaps.
Like the beautiful lilies of heaven. Do you like cats?
That depends on whether the cat is being likable at the time. Lottie, why are you asking me all of these questions? Lottie suddenly pulled her head away from Sara's shoulder, then hid her face behind her hands as she giggled. She spread her fingers to peek out between them and giggled again.
I'm gonna tell a story about Princess Sara.
Oh, I see. Suppose she wants to tell stories to be like her mama, even if I am no longer a good model to follow. Perhaps telling stories will be one of your accomplishments in the future as well. Are there other arts that you would like to learn? Lottie shrugged carelessly.
I like colors. Maybe I'll make watercolors or play an instrument, but that's for when I'm older.
You are never too young to have a dream or a plan for the future. Most accomplished hours in Skyrim. Is there a game called The Princess Sara? One of the themes about this game, and the book was, anybody can be a princess, whether they're dressed in rags or dressed in riches. The whole idea is this book and game kind of reminds me of a really well told Cinderella story, but you actually get to see like Cinderella when she was happy, sort of. Like you get to see what her life was like before her father died, and then you sort of see what happens after her father dies. And so it has that kind of like rise and fall. A booba game. Oh. I might have to look at that game at a different time. You're never too young to have a dream or a plan for the future. At those words, Lottie covered her face with her hands again. She rolled back onto the hard bed, kicking her feet in the air as she giggled. What is so funny?
Nothing.
She sat up with a tiny pout, curls askew.
Your bed is hard.
Sara tried again to cover the bed's shortcomings with manners and fantasy. It isn't so bad, really, But this time, Lottie didn't seem interested in listening to her explanations.
I'm going back to my room now.
She hopped to her feet, kissed Sara on the cheek, and hurried away, squeaking with merriment. Sara touched her own face, wondering. It must be for the best that she is not sad and worried anymore. Such a young girl should not have to worry about these things. Neither should Becky, nor I, nor any other child. So I'm doing good. How are you, Insane Engineer? Sara was carefully sweeping up shed hair and rubbish in the halls when Lottie passed her, a smile on her face and sparkle in her eyes. I don't think so. She paused to whisper conspiratorially.
Have a good day, Sara Mama.
You are cheerful today.
Because something good is going to happen, and I'm helping. But it's a secret.
She raised her chin, playfully drawing out the sound while she wiggled her fingers behind her back. And then, with a tiny little laugh and a toss of her curls, she skipped up the stairs. She certainly seems happier lately. I am glad that someone is. She returned her attention to the slow, steady sweeps of the brush. When the day's post arrived, Sara delivered the letters to Miss Minchin's office as usual and thought little of it. The physical demands of her chores did not leave much space for thought. She was quite unprepared for the wrathful emergence of the proprietor. "How dare you?" What? "The Princess Sara, indeed." Miss Minchin grabbed hold of Sara, her adult fingers easily encircling Sara's thin arm. "To bring the school into disrepute." I don't understand, ma'am." Her hand jerked upwards, forcing Sara onto her toes. "You will come with me." Miss Minchin dragged Sara through the door to her office, then shoved her away, leaving her to stumble a few steps before regaining her balance. She walked over to her desk and slammed her hand down upon its surface where some papers rested. "Do you have an explanation for this?" I can't have an explanation when I don't know what you're talking about." "You dare to pretend?" "I often pretend, but I am not pretending now." "I will not play your games!" Again she struck the desk with her hands. Sara stole a glance at the papers which rested there. Folded sheets and a neatly sliced open envelope suggested that the recent mail was at issue. "Someone has written to you?" "Yes, your target has swallowed the bait." "Did you or did you not instruct Lottie Lay to write to her father and suggest to him that he pursue a marriage arrangement with Princess Sara?" "What?" "The very nerve of it, making me out to be running some manner of joy house." "Lottie said she was going to tell a story. I never told Lottie to write to her father about me. I didn't know that she had." "I have seen the perverse control that you wield over that child. I thought I had put a stop to it. Apparently I have not done enough. To pass yourself off as a princess in your condition? Have you no shame? It is you who should be ashamed. You ought to be clapped in the stocks to teach you some humility." "Is this the end of it all? Will she now cast me out? Oh, Lottie, why did you—" "No, I can't blame Lottie. She's only a child. Whatever she did, I'm sure she meant no harm." "Sorry about feeling sore, but I'm glad you're feeling good too, that you're doing well." "Yeah, raking leaves and doing chores tends to make the body sore. I also can't wait for Christmas. I'm so excited. That's why I've been playing games during the holidays. Because, oh boy, I really want to share my favorite holiday with you all. Even if technically the games I'm playing aren't necessarily Christmas games, but... Also, Lottie, damn! Just straight up be like, it's fine. Also, Sara, no. Unfortunately, I am denied that recourse. Mr. Lay was sufficiently amused by his daughter's story to express interest in meeting this mysterious Princess Sara, and such a visit may be useful to increase his patronage. To meet me? It would seem that the simplest way to unravel these ridiculous fancies is to present you as an ordinary student, not a princess, and certainly not an eligible young lady. Since you are so very fond of pretending, I expect you will be capable of managing such a role. Yes, Miss Minchin. What will happen now? What should I do? Christmas is gonna be fun. I'm excited. Oh, Lottie, what have you done? Lottie, what have you wrought? Sarah's too young to marry, and she's gay. I know you wanted a mama, but damn, Lottie. Week 36. All right, we got time. Lottie? Sara is like 14 or 15. Oh no, this isn't the lowest hour scene yet. Sarah's like 14 to 15, I think. Because I think Jessie is like 16. And Lavinia's 16. Lottie is like 8. Yeah, no. I think this is the lowest hour. It always ends with Sara being told she can't have breakfast, or she can't have food for the rest of the day. The day of Lottie's father's visit arrived at last, and with it, careful instructions from Miss Minchin. It was to be a return to the days in which Sara took tea and demonstrated her French and literary skills for the admiration of wealthy visitors. Sara had been bathed and brushed and tidied, her skin scrubbed with lemon to make it as bright and youthful as possible. She was to wear a borrowed pink dress, again to emphasize her girlishness, and with warnings of the direst consequences if she allowed any stain to fall upon it. Lottie had not been invited to tea, even though it was her father who was the guest. Miss Minchin explained that she was too young to sit still and behave, and her father showed no signs of disagreement. For that matter, the gentleman himself seemed a poor fit for the sedate environs of the tea-room. At once, upon entering, he clasped Miss Minchin's hand in his, and gave them a good shaking. "Contemptible climate we have in this country, eh? I say I must look rather like a jellied eel, I'm so wet." There is a cold mist outside, but it is barely raining at all. And even if it were, he came here in a carriage. Has he ever been forced to walk in the rain? I trust you will find it more comfortable within our select seminary. Yes, charming. He turned around, nearly overturning a vase with a bump of his elbow. La, and who is this? This can't be the little princess. Oh dear, this poor slim man is nothing like my papa. Not a princess, as you can see, only a student. Her name is Sara. Gracious sakes, woman, I asked the girl. Now, little miss, don't be afraid, I shan't bite. You'd only be half a mouthful anyway, eh? Sir, a jest. Yeah, that's apparently. As he slapped his thigh in amusement at his own words, then gestured with his hand as if to make a bow. My greetings to you, little lady. Are you the one known as Princess Sara? Some have called me that, but I have never claimed that title. My name is Sara Crewe. Such a serious miss. He took her hand then and kissed the air above it. I must remember that Lottie is only a little bit of a thing herself. I am sure you seem terribly adult in her eyes, but rather too young for me, eh? Lottie is a fanciful child, given... Sorry. Oh no! Eat the candy. Just eat it out of the air. Lottie is a fanciful child, given to exaggeration as young girls are. They invent stories for themselves that are more dramatic than the reality. I thought it best for you to meet young Sara in person and dispel any misunderstandings or hint of impropriety. Yes, of course. Your pardon, my dear, I'm sure I'm not the playmate you hope to meet either, no. Sara is accustomed to taking tea with visitors. They are often pleased to hear her recitations or her conversational French. Delightful language. Can't say I speak it myself. Sara thought it best to say nothing and sip at her tea. It had been long months since she had tasted good, warm tea. I'm glad to see my daughter is so well looked after, but I have to say I'm not much for little girls myself. Begging your pardon, miss. I do my best to provide a safe and nurturing environment for all my pupils. It can, at times, have its trials. It seemed that there would be no need for Sara to recite after all. Miss Minchin flattered the young man, ignoring his rough behaviors, while delicately hinting about increased donations and special privileges. He seems willing to give a woman anything she wants in order to make her quiet and happy. No wonder Lottie is so spoiled. My papa loved to give me presents. Sara kept her head down, sipped her tea, and enjoyed her biscuits, which were sweet, if not filling. She hadn't eaten since breakfast. There hadn't been time. At last, Miss Minchin and Lottie's father concluded their business. The gentleman departed, leaving smiles and promises in his wake. Miss Minchin's brow pinched together as a gaze fell on Sara. Go upstairs and take that off, carefully, and be quick about it before someone sees you. Yes, Miss Minchin. Sara hurried up the stairs to her attic and changed out of her pretty pink dress into her too familiar rags. Thank you. How desolate the attic seemed. She tapped on the door to signal that she was ready to hand back her borrowed garments. Miss Minchin stepped into the room to receive them and, without warning, struck Sara across the face. Sara was too shocked to even cry out. I did everything she asked of me. You are fortunate that this affair has had no lasting consequences, but you are not forgiven. Your foolishness endangered the entire school. Lottie will be disciplined for her part in this, and you are strictly forbidden to speak to her outside the classroom under any circumstances. Furthermore, as you have partaken of my hospitality, you are to have no further food either tonight or tomorrow. Do you understand me? Yes, Miss Minchin. This is the last that anyone will ever hear of Princess Sara. She slammed the door. Trembling, Sara raised a hand to her face. If I had told Lottie's foolish father the truth, that I am a beggar, that Miss Minchin mistreats me, would he have listened? He certainly would not listen now that he believes I am an ordinary pupil, and Lottie a teller of tales. What will happen to Lottie now? Sara looked around the room, at the dust and desolation which Lottie had seen, even though Sara had tried to conceal it from her. Lottie was trying to help in the only way she knew how. She used the child's trickery to achieve her goals, because I treated her like a child. I would not answer her questions when she asked them honestly. I pretended so much that I may as well lived a lie. I would not let her give me food or aid unless she tricked me into it. If I had spoken to her clearly about my troubles, she had been able to plan with me instead of trying to keep it all a secret, this might not have turned out so badly. It is my fault. She walked to her bed, her footsteps slow and heavy, and collapsed onto the comfortless surface. There is no hope anymore. I have pretended for so long to be all right that I have lost every chance I had to escape. No one will reward me for my virtue and suffering. Miss Minchin will never be pleased by my obedience. Cook will never warm to my manners or diligence. This is where I will die. She closed her eyes. There seemed no point in opening them again. I will have a new life. Call it a night. Finale.
Sara, Mama!
Lottie came running out of Miss Minchin's select seminary in such a rush that she lost her balance on the doorstep. Only Sarah's quick grab stopped her from toppling onto the cobblestones. Lottie, be careful. I'm right here. No sooner was Lottie safely on her feet than she threw herself forward again, her head impacting with Sarah's ribcage, her arms flung around Sarah's middle.
Hello. You can't go!
I have to leave, Lottie. No, I want to leave.
Don't you like me?
Of course I like you. That isn't the reason why. Lottie, I have not always been fair to you.
But you're wonderful, Sara Mama.
Sara shook her head. Sometimes I told you that you needed to grow up and be strong. But other times I insisted on treating you as if you were much younger than you are. I hid things from you that I shouldn't have. I want to explain it all to you now. Lottie, when my papa died, Miss Minchin was very cruel to me. Even now it seemed very faintly disloyal to lay it all out in the open. However, it was a thing that needed to be said. She took all my things away and sold them. She made me into a servant, but she did not pay me or give me clothes. Sometimes she did not feed me. Sometimes she beat me. She put me in a dark room that was too cold and visited by insects and rats, and Becky's was no better. You saw how unhappy I was. Isn't that why you tried to help me?
Yes, but I'm still here. Can't things be better now?
Sara carefully pulled away from Lottie's embrace. Just a little. Lottie, listen to me. This is important. If someone is cruel to you, if someone hurts you over and over, then you have to leave when you can, even if there are still some good things there. That is why I have to go. And Becky too. We mustn't stay here now. That would be the same as saying that what Miss Minchin did was right.
Okay, good night, Alex. Thank you for staying up as long as you can. I hope you sleep well. And I thank you for joining me. But if you leave me, I won't have any mama.
You won't have a mama at school, but the rest of the girls don't have their mamas at school either. You are becoming old enough that you can think of things for yourself. It was you who asked me for tutoring. When you were lost, you almost found your way back on your own. You stopped and waited for me, but you would have been all right even if you hadn't. You noticed that I was hungry, even when I tried to hide it, and then you realized that Becky might be too. And you came up here with a plan all by yourself to try and help me. It didn't happen the way that you hoped, but you did try. Lottie sniffled, rubbing her nose against the fabric of Sara's dress. Becky and I have to leave, but I'll still be watching over you from afar, just like your real mama in heaven.
Does that mean I'll never see you again? Like my real mama?
No, of course not. You can write to me. If you have problems, if you need help, tell me. Or if you just want to talk to me, tell me, and I promise that I will visit. And then you can tell me stories.
But you're the one who tells stories.
You're learning, aren't you? You can do it.
Oh.
Sara hugged her close and rubbed her cheek against the girl's hair. I love you, Lottie. Never forget that.
Oh.
You will grow up wonderfully, Lottie. I know you will. I am not your mama, but I will be your friend. Forever. I'm just gonna have to... Okay. I'm gonna let it get back to where it needs to be. So that was Lottie's route. Thank you guys for tuning in for Lottie's route. And now we're gonna go Lavinia's route, aka Tsundere route, aka the worst romance route, aka Dear God Help. But yay! thank you for tuning in for Lottie. She was really good. I forgot how good she was.